Look back in this wonderful world of show business, you sort of look back and forget certain people that you've actually been fortunate enough to interview, meet, sit down with, have a cup of tea. And then there are a few that become genuine friends, mainly because you're more fascinated by their career than they are. And they certainly reach a certain age where they want to tell you all the stories in case, of course, they don't really get remembered in years to come. Just over a couple of years ago now, we lost this magnificent actor. He was, of course, for many people up there with one of the great British character actors, alongside, say, Terry Thomas. We're talking about the star of many, many different films, radio series, TV series, and of course, just simply having an image by the mere fact of his catchphrase could really introduce him, the brilliant Leslie Phillips. Now, strangely enough, I ended up living very close to Leslie Phillips for a period of time. I had no idea that he lived here. And then in this particular picture, what you can see now is really when I first met him. It was at a celebration at Pinewood Studios for the Carry On films. This was for Gerald Thomas and Peter Rogers, the creators, producers, directors, etc. So many stars were there, but so many people really just wanted to meet Leslie Phillips. Now, what was fascinating about Leslie is this, he was a raconteur par excellence, there's no two ways about it. Certainly had a charm with the ladies, married quite a few times, and himself would say that he possibly wasn't the very best parent. But of course, he came from a time really when that sort of thing, if you like, wasn't paramount, particularly if you were building your stardom. And he truly was. You see, he decided to become an actor, and his mother had decided that he needed to get rid of his North London accent. So they sent him off to drama school. But he pointed out to me that actually he lost his accent by really mixing with posh people in the theatre. That's how he cultivated that sound. What was fascinating, though, was Leslie's career, because he could have been far more, and obviously in the latter part of his years wanted to openly discuss this. You see, while being in many different radio series and films, including the likes of The Navy Lark, he really did look at this particular adventure alongside a Hollywood stalwart himself, the one and only, oh yes, Robin Hood, Errol Flynn, and they became unlikely friends for a short period in the late 1950s. You see, Errol had come over to town to basically make the Errol Flynn Theatre. This was for the newly commercial ITV franchise, and they felt that this was going to be a big box office money spinner. Errol, as ever, needing money, was happy that they were willing to pay. You get the picture now. Now, the Errol Flynn Theatre was kind of unique in many respects because although he was going to be only appearing in 4, he would be executive producer and director at some point. So you can imagine the cachet that had for many British stars wanting to be directed and produced by the brilliant Errol Flynn. Not looking his best at this period, but still something of a box office name. Now, Leslie appeared in one episode only, filmed in the February of 1956, and he told me he couldn't quite believe it. There he was, opposite someone who he truly admired, gone to see in the pictures when he was a young boy at his local cinema back in Tottenham. We all know that feeling, if you work in show business, you can't quite believe you're opposite the person that you're suddenly now working with. Very strange. Felt a little bit like that with Leslie Phillips, let me tell you. But what was fascinating was truly this. You see, Leslie had had an opportunity at Hollywood stardom, but turned it down. Here's the reason why. He managed to get a small part, you see, with Gene Kelly, the celebrated director, dancer, writer, comedy performer, whatever you want to call him, a brilliant all-rounder in Les Girls in 1957. But he didn't really like the idea of that because he didn't want to become, as he said, a second-rate David Niven in Hollywood. But, the cachet of working with Errol Flynn was something totally different. Now, what was interesting was the series, the complete thing, is still actually intact in the vaults of television somewhere, we believe over at ITV Centre, but they don't seem fit to want to put it out. Elements of it naturally are on things like YouTube and digital platforms, stuff like that. But what was fascinating was that the two boys got on so well together, they even were talking about appearing on stage in the West End, and were looking at virtual properties that they could do, that sort of thing. But what was more interesting was a third person came into the wheel, none other than Tallulah Bankhead. Now, Tallulah Bankhead, for many of my generation, with thanks to the reruns, we know her for popping up in things like Batman and being ultra fun. You know, there's no two ways about it. What's fascinating also is that they felt, as three-star names, that they could simply get quite a bit of backing, you know, to put on a play. The problem was, you see, Errol didn't have any collateral and no money, and Leslie wasn't keen to use his money, and Tallulah never opened her purse, even though she lived full-time at the Savoy Hotel. You can see how show business works now. So sadly, the whole idea collapsed, but as Leslie pointed out to me, it was one of the biggest regrets of his career, because he truly felt that that would have helped him be taken seriously as an actor, and more importantly, be a more professional, sort of serious springboard into Hollywood. But as he said, way back in the middle 50s, just to work with someone of the ilk of Errol Flynn could do your career a lot of good. I did say to him, though, what was Errol actually like as a person? And as ever, it's never the media prescription, is it, you see? Because apparently Errol loved to play up to that hard-drinking, womanizing, late on set type of character, but apparently he was anything but. Turned up on time, very studious, knew the lines, knew exactly where to be, all of that sort of stuff. But as he said, to him, Errol really saw show business as a secondary career. He liked living life, he liked to enjoy himself, he liked being on yachts surrounded by beautiful ladies, you know, the usual thing if you're in the world of show business. Leslie, a lot younger, was trying to carve out a more professional career. But as he said, really, you know, Errol Flynn was the template of everything that was bad about Hollywood, that made Hollywood so seductive to so many British actors. And as Errol's now infamous autobiography is known around the world as My Wicked, Wicked Ways, we can understand exactly the image that Errol was trying to cultivate. Sadly, we lost Errol all too soon. And as Leslie told me, you know, the fact that he passed very quickly after making such an iconic series was really, really hurtful to him, because they had hoped at some point to reconnect and do something. But as ever, when you sit down with a major celebrity like Leslie Phillips, who again, you know, we were lucky enough to have for so many years, lasting until 98 years of age, and let's not forget, one of the very first male stars over here in the United Kingdom to appear naked in the also risky 1950s, all thanks to Carry On Constable, you know which shot I'm talking about, where they run out the shower ladies. Well, he really did leave his mark. And as ever, there's always chance of a resurgence when people look back at what people have done. And of course, there's always a chance of resurgence, because when people look back at the fabulous career of some of these people, as we are doing today, you do kind of think, ah, yes, I remember him in that. And then that really does start a major rethink and a relook at somebody's spectacular career. And that really does start a rethink, a relook at somebody's spectacular career. But as Leslie told me, it could have been all so different if the Errol and Leslie show had ever come to fruition. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.